The Derby is special, and as a sporting event, this is the one that makes my heart race.
A huge amount of history, a huge amount of heritage. It's more than just a race, it's the greatest flat race in the world.
People can come and have a picnic, families can come into the family enclosure, the biggest racing fans can come, it's a big mix.
It's just such a special day out. Derby is the one for me because I'm born and bred in Epsom, and it is so much a part of Epsom, it's so much a part of the history.
For the crowd, it's just an amazing event to be a part of. You feel that build and excitement.
It really is just a unique event which offers something for everybody.
I would say dress to impress, because it's all about looking glamorous and feeling really glamorous, especially the hat. I've grown up here, I've grown up around the racing. I love the fashion, I love the people that come racing.
You've got royalty, you've got travellers, you've got the everyday man in the centre of the course. There's such a variety of people come here.
Best horses, best riders, best owners and trainers coming here to have an awesome day.
It is a test for a racehorse of balance, of stamina, of speed at the end, of temperament.
Quite simply, the best test of a thoroughbred in the world. This is the one.
The Derby is special, and as a sporting event, this is the one that makes my heart race.
A huge amount of history, a huge amount of heritage. It's more than just a race, it's the greatest flat race in the world.
People can come and have a picnic, families can come into the family enclosure, the biggest racing fans can come, it's a big mix.
It's just such a special day out. Derby is the one for me because I'm born and bred in Epsom, and it is so much a part of Epsom, it's so much a part of the history.
For the crowd, it's just an amazing event to be a part of. You feel that build and excitement.
It really is just a unique event which offers something for everybody.
I would say dress to impress, because it's all about looking glamorous and feeling really glamorous, especially the hat. I've grown up here, I've grown up around the racing. I love the fashion, I love the people that come racing.
You've got royalty, you've got travellers, you've got the everyday man in the centre of the course. There's such a variety of people come here.
Best horses, best riders, best owners and trainers coming here to have an awesome day.
It is a test for a racehorse of balance, of stamina, of speed at the end, of temperament.
Quite simply, the best test of a thoroughbred in the world. This is the one.
Very good morning, everybody, and welcome once again to Investec Breakfast with the Stars. This has become an annual treat for us here on Epsom Downs as we build up to the running of the Investec Derby a couple of Saturdays from now. Delighted to say that some of our regular supporters have supported this event once again and will be galloping horses on the track in a few moments' time, and what a beautiful morning we've got for it as well. Jon Gosselin, who famously worked Golden Horn and Jack Hobbs here before they finished first and second in the Derby in 2015, is here again. I'm delighted to say that Golden Horn's owner Anthony Oppenheimer is represented by Cracksman, who'll be ridden this morning by Frankie Dettori, and he will be accompanied in his work by Peeler, a work companion who holds a Derby entry. Robert Havlin will ride Peeler and Frankie will be on Cracksman. Andrew Balding has supported this event from its inception. He won the Oaks back in 2003 with casual look, and he has Horseplay, a leading contender for the Investec Oaks today. And Horseplay will be accompanied by Elbrus. Elbrus has a Coronation Cup and a Princess Elizabeth entry, and she finished second to Somehow in the Dahlia Stakes at Newmarket last time out. Thanks to Andrew for bringing his two horses. Elbrus will be ridden by Leanne Masterton, an integral part of his team, and Horseplay's rider Oisin Murphy will take the ride on the Oaks-bound filly. Martin Meade, who's made such an impression the last couple of seasons, joins us once again. His Derby entrant is the son of Frankel Eminent, so you'll see two sons of Frankel today, Cracksman and Eminent. And Eminent will be ridden by his big race rider Jim Crowley, and he'll be accompanied by Solo Hunter, who'll be ridden by Glenn Osborne. And finally, Hugo Palmer, who saddled last year's Oaks runner-up Architecture and seeks his third classic victory, will be fielding the Godolphin-owned Best of Days, one of a huge number of horses owned by Godolphin still engaged in the Investec Derby. Best of Days won last year's Royal Lodge Stakes at Newmarket. He'll be ridden by former jockey Michael Hills, the man that partnered Charmit to success in the Derby in 1996, and he will be led by the Charlie Appleby-trained Carrington, also for Godolphin. So those are the horses that you're going to see. The man who will call them for you is none other than J.A. McGrath, the man who called 18 derbies. He called the derbies from 1992 to 1997. He began with Dr. Devious in his role as a racecourse commentator, and he then took up the reins once again when the BBC covered the Derby from 2001, the year of the mighty Galileo, of course, whose name figures in so many of the pedigrees of these Derby horses, until 2012. So very shortly, Jim will be taking up the reins. When you've seen the horses gallop, hopefully you'll rejoin us in here, and we'll be hearing from all the leading connections. They'll be talking to ITV's Ollie Bell. I'll be talking to some of the people behind this year's Investec Derby, and you'll get all the news and latest up-to-date stories about all the horses running in this year's race, or potentially running in this year's race, and the Investec Oaks. Just before we start, thanks to all the team at Epsom, all the team at Investec, and indeed to John O'Spence and John O'Spence Consulting for all their hard work in putting this morning's festivities together. Do enjoy your breakfast, enjoy the action out on the track, and the next voice you hear in a few moments' time, and I'd ask you to finish up and head out through the next 5 minutes, will be that of the legendary J.A. McGrath. But thank you very much for coming. I will see you all very shortly indeed. Just one small correction. The lead horse for Best of Days, so in the last group that you'll see, is now Kid Me Never. Kid Me Never is the new lead horse for Best of Days.
Well, a very good morning from the commentary box, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolutely glorious day, a glorious morning, and we're only 11 days away from the big day. We're going to see some real talent here this morning, and some horses that are being talked about and have been talked about for some time, but the way the Derby is taking shape, I think we're going to see some very interesting workouts this morning, and we'll have plenty of talking points, no doubt, for the rest of the morning. Now, there's one slight change to the order that Nick outlined to you earlier, and that is that in the last of the pairings that we see this morning, we're going to see 4 groups of 2. And the last of those pairings is the Godolphin pair, Best of Days, who's trained by Hugo Palmer. But he'll be accompanied by Kid Me Never, who's the lead horse and supplied by Charlie Appleby. And Willie Ryan will be aboard Kid Me Never. So that's a late change for you to note. But meanwhile, the horses are coming out for the first of our morning gallops. Number 1 that you can see is Peeler, who's the lead horse here, for number 2, who is Cracksman. And Cracksman, the Derby favourite with many firms. The horse who so far is 2 from 2. He's a son of Frankel, and he's out of the pivotal mare Radagunda, homebred by Anthony Oppenheimer. Bred at his Hascombe and Valiant studs, who we've seen take the limelight and take the headlines only a couple of years ago with Golden Horn. Well, could he strike again with Cracksman? So far, he's 2 from 2, Cracksman. He won his maiden at Newmarket in October last year. That was over a mile. But then he won the Investec Derby Trial here in April last month, and that was a particularly interesting pointer. In past years, it's fair to say that Derby Trial has lost its way a little bit, but it might be the most relevant pointer we've seen so far, because Cracksman beat Permian that day by a short head. Permian's come out and won the listed Newmarket Stakes in the Group 2 Dante at York. First class form. The third horse in the race was Bay of Poets, who's since come out and run second in the D Stakes at Chester behind Cliffs of Moher. And the fourth horse, adding another important part to that jigsaw, is Tartini, who went on to run third in the Lingfield Derby Trial behind Best Solution, and he was 6 1/4 lengths behind that Godolphin horse. And back in 5th place was Never Surrender, who since then has won a Chester Maiden on the first day of the May meeting there. So it is a very, very pertinent trial, the Investec Derby Trial this year, and it'll be interesting to see if it does turn out to be the number 1 pointer. Certainly so far it seems to be showing promise of being the most informative of the trials we've seen so far. But Cracksman is the horse. He's trained by Jon Gosselin and ridden this morning by Frankie Dettori, who'll take the ride in the big race. And he's accompanied by Peeler, who's a son of campanologist out of a big shuffle mare. He's 1 from 4, Peeler. And we're just looking at them now. They're over towards the marker, which is a mile, I think, from home. The 2 of them over there. And they're just going very slowly now, just taking it all in, very serene, a very different atmosphere to what we'll see on Derby Day. Couldn't be more different. And the 2 of them over there at the mile. So we'll just see whether they go the 9 or whether they go down to the 1.25 or whether in fact they soon turn. Peeler, as I say, is 1 from 4. He won his maiden at Southall last start. He won that by 19 lengths and 29 lengths. Don't know too much about the opposition, but he certainly stamped his authority on that at the fourth time of asking. Now they're turning. And we'll see just what they do from now. They're just short of the highest point of the course, which is approximately at the 7.5 furlong point. Peeler and Cracksman, and they set off now. So Peeler, the lead horse, Cracksman, and the red cap just dropping in behind in second as they pass the 7. And it's interesting to judge what sort of a tempo they go. Some jockeys and trainers like them to have a gentle breeze down Tattenham Hill, but this time it seems the tempo is a little bit more serious. We've got 5.5 to go, and Peeler just showing the way, a couple of lengths clear of Cracksman, and this is the all-important stage to see just how they handle that downhill run. Peeler himself holds an entry in the Derby, and Cracksman, as we know, has been around this course before and has won here. So they come round Tattenham Corner, the famous Tattenham Corner, and run up the home straight. Peeler, joined now by Cracksman on the outside. They've got just over 2 furlongs left to run, and Cracksman now being pushed out by Frankie. Goes a length and a half in front. Peeler just keeping with him on the inside. But Cracksman striding up nearer the outside in that lane there that's doled off. And an easy stride up to the line as we see Cracksman going on to finish just ahead of Peeler in the first of our 4 gallops here at Epsom this morning for Breakfast with the Stars. Well, is he a star? We'll soon see, because in 11 days' time he'll be facing up to his biggest assignment on only his 3rd race start. That's Cracksman by Frankel out of Radagunda, and Peeler, who's by Campanologist, out of a Big Shuffle mare. They're the 2 that we've seen so far. We've still got another 6 horses to come very shortly. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a slight change in the running order here. I think just before we gave you the Andrew Balding horses to be coming out next. But in fact, there'll be the Martin Meade pair, which will be Eminent and also Solo Hunter. They'll be the two that we'll see coming onto the course now. So the Balding horses are just walking around, and we'll be able to see them after this pair have galloped. So a slight change in the running order. Eminent and also Solo Hunter to be the next horses we see onto the track. So, ladies and gentlemen, they're coming into view now, the two horses from the Martin Meade stable at Newmarket. We've got Eminent, Jim Crowley in the saddle, and he's wearing the blue and white striped cap. He's on number 6, which is Eminent. And number 5 is his lead horse, Solo Hunter, with Glenn Osborne in the saddle. So Eminent with the big white face, striped cap of Jim Crowley, and number 5, Solo Hunter, Glenn Osborne. So they'll take off now up the home straight, and I should imagine we'll go to a similar point of dispatch to what we saw previously with Cracksman and Peeler. But Eminent is a very interesting horse indeed. He's the winner of the Group 3 Craven Stakes at Newmarket. He's the son of Frankel out of King Mambo, and he's from one of the best families, best female families of modern times. He's out of a mare called You'll Be Mine, And this is from the Jude family, which is also the family of Albarada and those good fillies. Also Quarter Moon, who was placed in several classics. Yesterday, he was beaten here at Epsom, but also a classic winner. So he boasts an impeccable pedigree and is by the champion Frankel, owned by Sir Peter Valla, one of the key figures in New Zealand bloodstock, owning and breeding. His Pencarrow stud in New Zealand have produced many, many good horses over the years. And he's trying something new here in investing in Eminent, and Eminent trained by Martin Meade. Eminent won his maiden in September last year. That was at Newmarket. And then he went on to win the Craven, first up at Newmarket this time in. That was in April last month. Then he went to the Guineas and he finished 6th in that, beaten 3.5 lengths by Churchill. It was a good run. He seemed to be going very well at halfway. When they sprinted, though, he wasn't quite with them, but he's finished a very respectable 6th, beaten only 3.5 lengths. And on pedigree, you'd be giving him every chance of getting this 1.5 miles. An interesting pedigree, enough speed there to say that he'd be able to take a handy position and to travel well in the Derby, but also enough stamina on the dam side as well. A couple of relations have been placed in classics here at Epsom. So a very, very interesting pedigree, and a striking horse as well, Eminent. He's galloping with Solo Hunter, who's a last start winner, incidentally, at Windsor, off a mark of 86. He's a handicapper, a 1.25 mile handicapper, or thereabouts. He's by Sleeping Indian. He's out of a night shift mare, and he's a 6-year-old gelding. So just the type you'd look for in a lead horse, and he'll be hopefully doing his job well here today. So they're reaching almost the highest point of the course. Over there they're passing the 6th, they're behind the trees, and soon they'll be coming into view and taking off for another gallop down the Epsom Hill. They're not hanging about here, they're making their way steadily over the far side. Won't be too long before they're turning. Jim Crowley in the blue and white striped cap, a cap that he's been wearing with some regularity because he's now first jockey for Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum, and that's they're his colours, certainly his coloured cap, the blue and white stripes. And Glenn Osborne, who's on the lead horse, he's in a beige cap. So they're making their way down towards that 8 furlong, that mile marker. And in the Derby itself, when they reach that marker, they've already gone half a mile, and it's very, very much an uphill run. Anyone who walks the course will be puffing and panting a bit by the time they get to that mile marker, that's for sure. So it's a real test of a horse's agility, also his ability to get the trip. You often hear it said that this might be an easy 1.5 miles, or nothing could be further from the truth. It's a really stiff test, and a test of so many attributes that breeders and owners are looking for in thoroughbred racehorses today. Now they're just going towards the 8.5 point here, and just taking their time as well. Now they're turning and going back. They just went beyond the 8, and now they're starting to stride up past that mile marker. So in front, the lead horse, Solo Hunter, doing his job quite well, going along at a fairly leisurely gallop, leads by 2 to 3 lengths to Eminent in second, Jim Crowley, as they now stride towards the highest point of the course. 6.5 furlongs from home, and possibly going a fraction slower than they did in the previous workout, but now starting to tackle Tattenham Hill, starting to run down towards the 5 furlong marker. And Solo Hunter, Glenn Osborne, showing the way by 2.5 lengths to Eminent, the big white face, striped cap worn by Jim Crowley in second place as they stride down Tattenham Corner now and about to enter the home straight. So they come into the home straight now, and on the far side it's Solo Hunter, on the near side it's Eminent. They race up now with just on 2 furlongs left to travel. Eminent, the white face on the left, now joining Solo Hunter. Solo Hunter a fractional leader. He's just going to stretch him out here as Solo Hunter joined by Eminent on the near side. They're going stride for stride, and Eminent finishing with plenty in reserve here as he goes to the line under a firm hold, but striding out quite nicely over the final furlong. So Eminent goes on to finish fractionally ahead of Solo Hunter in the second of our workouts at Breakfast with the Stars this morning. More to come, still 2 more after this.
So, ladies and gents, hope you enjoy your breakfast. We'll be starting the interviews around about 9 o'clock. About 9 o'clock, so in about half an hour's time.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the next wave to come on this Breakfast with the Stars morning here at Epsom. The third pairing coming forward now. These are the Andrew Balding trained fillies. We've got Elbrus, who's got entries in the Coronation Cup, and also the Princess Elizabeth. Also, we've got Horseplay, who holds an entry in the Investec Oaks. And Horseplay is the one with Sheen Murphy in the saddle, wearing a maroon cap. just preceded by Leanne Masterton on Elbrus, the filly there, with more than a touch of white on her face, and both of them wearing nosebands. So Elbrus going to lead horseplay here. Horseplay in her race on Oaks Day will be carrying the famous Cliveden stud colours, the yellow with the black spots. Very famous here at Epsom as the colours of Reference Point, who won the 1987 Derby. Louis Friedman, of course, the late Louis Friedman, they were his colours, and retained by the family, and wearing all the Cliveden stud, or carried by all Cliveden stud runners these days. So Derby winning colours, classic winning colours here at Epsom, and we'll see in a few days' time whether they can be successful once again here on these famous Epsom Downs. But looking at the two horses, Elbrus, let's just focus on her. She's going to lead them in this gallop. She's a very, very capable filly, and she's improved out of sight. If you look at the ratings, you'll just get an idea of just how much she has improved. When she, or soon after a maiden, which was a win at Kempton, that was back in August 2014, she was rated 79. Well, these days, she's got a rating of 100, so as I say, she's improved out of sight. In fact, on paper, she's improved 1.5 stone. Her last run was probably her best. It was a second behind Somehow in the Group 2 Dahlia Stakes for fillies and mares at Newmarket. That was on Guineas Day, on 1,000 Guineas Day earlier this month. And she's certainly deserving of her entries here in a few days' time. She's in great form, and a real credit to her trainer. Horseplay, well, she's had 3 runs so far. She's won 2 of them. She won her maiden, that was at Nottingham, over 1.5 miles furlong. She won it by 13 lengths, and that's enough to inspire most owners and breeders during the winter months. That was on October the 16th. Well, she went into winter quarters with that run behind her, and she came out and won first up this campaign in the Pretty Polly Stakes, now a listed race at Newmarket, and that was on good to firm ground on Guineas Day earlier this month. So she's shown that she does handle top of the ground conditions, which is probably going to be in her favour here. Just a word about the ground at Epsom. Andrew Cooper is the maestro here. He's been in charge for a couple of decades, and one of the best kept and best managed courses in the country. A difficult course to manage, and Andrew has done it in exemplary fashion. He's always setting out to provide good, safe ground. Doesn't want to see firm in the going reading at all. He just wants good ground, and I think most owners and trainers would applaud his efforts, because that's what we invariably get. The sun is out, of course. The sun is out here at, or has been this morning, and that will all be factored into everything he has planned for the days up towards the big day itself, or the big days themselves. So this pair, Horseplay and Elbrus, they're coming up towards the top of the hill. And I'm imagining they're going to start from just about the same point. And they'll just be getting into relaxed mode. In fact, they're already in relaxed mode. They're up near the 7 furlong marker now. And they'll just be walking their way downhill towards that 8 furlong point. Horseplay is by Cape Cross out of Lemon Drop Kidmare. Certainly Cape Cross has been an influence for great success here at Epsom. Most recent classic winner to represent him, or one of the most recent, was Golden Horn. Of course, a Ouija board one here as well, See the Stars. So you've got a great lineup of classic winners by that sire. Andrew Balding, well, he registered a classic win here in 2003 with Casual Look. What a day that was, so early in his career. It's really hard to believe that that's 14 years ago. Certainly had many good horses and great success in the seasons that followed that. So the two horses have taken off. They're past the 7 furlong. They're heading towards the 6.5 point, the highest point of the course here. So just a little bit short of previous horses' gallops, these two fillies. Elbrus, the 6-year-old mare by Mount Nelson. She shows the way here. She's the lead horse for Oisin Murphy on Horseplay, the Oaks contender. So they run down Tattenham Hill. They've got 4.5 furlongs left to travel. And Elbrus, with a white face, showing the way, ridden by Leanne Masterton, and Horseplay, Oisin Murphy, just sitting in behind there with the maroon cap as they round Tattenham Corner and into the home straight now. This will be a sprint up towards the line. Elbrus on the right with a white face. On the left, the maroon cap worn by Oisin Murphy on Horseplay. They run up now past the 2 furlong point. Elbrus, who's in cracking form at the moment, she's in front, and Horseplay now trying to join her on the outside as they race up inside the furlong. And Elbrus being joined on the line by Horseplay, and a nice little bit of work there, a nice prep before their next scene here at Epsom in a few days' time. So Elbrus and Horseplay finishing together at the end of their gallop. One more to come, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have Hugo Palmer's Best of Day stepping out next in company with a Godolphin lead horse trained by Charlie Appleby. But more about that in a few moments' time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the last of our workouts this morning. And here we're looking at Best of Days and also Kid Me Never. There's the two horses we're looking at. Number 7 is Kid Me Never in the blue cap. That's worn by Willie Ryan. And number 8, Best of Days, is worn by the red cap, worn by Michael Hills. So we've got 2 Derby winning riders in the saddle here, both retired, but both playing an important role at Godolphin. Willie Ryan seen regularly riding there, and Michael Hills also does his share. Willie Ryan, of course, successful in 1997 on Benny the Dip. And a year later, Michael on, or was it a year earlier, on Charmit. So the two of them, plenty of experience, and they'll be aboard these 2 horses. Michael Hills in the red cap is riding Best of Days, who's trained by Hugo Palmer, winner of the Royal Lodge. And that in itself is usually a recommendation that classics should be contemplated for the following season. When he won his Royal Lodge, he beat the Anvil, who we've seen this year in trials at Chester. He also beat Arcada, one of Joseph O'Brien's horses. And back in 5th was Douglas MacArthur, who we've since seen play a very prominent role in the Derrinstown Stud Derby trial this year, and also Bay of Poets. So you can see that that Royal Lodge did contain plenty of potential anyway, and most of them, or several of them, just realising that potential this year. 2 horses now at Tattenham Corner and just making their way uphill there. A little word about Kid Me Never. Kid Me Never just replacing, in this gallop, replacing Carrington, who I think was earlier published as a possible, but it is Kid Me Never. He's the winner of the Swiss Derby. He won this last year. That was at Frauenfeld. He's won 5 of his 22 starts. He's a 4-year-old by a Baltic King and trained by Charlie Appleby. Charlie's got plenty on his plate today. He's over at St. Cloud. He's to saddle De Bay, ridden by William Buick in that Prix de Pontarme, a listed race over a mile, and De Bay is also very highly thought of at Moulton Paddocks. So they're making their way uphill. These 2, Best of Days, trained by Hugo Palmer, already a classic winning trainer. Galileo Gold winning last year's 2,000 guineas. Best of Days started off winning a maiden at Sandown in July last year. He then went on and ran second in the Group 3 Acomb Stakes over 7 furlongs at York, and that was a good run. He finished behind Syphax, and Godolphin these days have both Best of Days and Syphax. Syphax, trained by Kevin Ryan, ran in the Dante the other day. So the 2 horses have reached their point of dispatch, I'd say, or very near to it. They're certainly slowing up at the 7. They may go a little bit further. There's a string of horses just you can see on the inside rail. I'm not sure who trains those, but there's 5 horses just making their way on the inside track there, not on the course proper at all. But we're just watching these 2 horses, Best of Days, with the red cap, and Kid Me Never, blue cap of Willie Ryan. Slowly but surely making their way to the dispatch point. They're at about the 7.5 furlong point at this stage. Just a little bit further to go. And the point of the exercise is to just get some experience, It's interesting to hear the professionals, some of them saying that you wouldn't want to go anywhere near Epsom before the big race, saying that it just might give the horse unhappy memories. But then you've got some great trainers who like to use this opportunity. In modern times, we've seen Jon Gosselin, Andre Farr both bringing horses here. Michael Bell using this Breakfast with the Stars just as a reconnaissance mission for their horses. And going back to the 70s, Vincent O'Brien used to love bringing his horses here just, I think it was the day before the race. I can remember seeing Vincent here before the Minstrels Derby, and he was very happy to be letting them have a bit of a canter down Tattenham Hill. Well, they've set off here in our last group, and Willie Ryan in the blue colours on Kid Me Never, leading Best of Days, Michael Hills, in the red cap. So they stride up towards the highest point of the course, go behind the trees, and now they start to hit the 6 furlong marker. And the Swiss Derby winner, Kid Me Never, striding out as they run down Tattenham Hill, leads by 2.5 lengths or so to Best of Days, the Hugo Palmer trained Derby entry, as they run down now, getting an experience of this very unusual, unique track, running around Tattenham Corner. And Kid Me Never heads up for home, a fractional leader here. From in behind, Best of Days. Best of Days, the Royal Lodge winner, with 1.5 lengths or so to make up here as they'll try to finish together inside the 2, and they're having a good sprint up towards the line now. Kid Me Never on the right in the blue. On the near side now, a fractional leader is Best of Days as they come inside the final furlong. These two Godolphin horses, as Best of Days goes on and eased towards the line, just joined and passed fractionally on the line by Kid Me Never. So, ladies and gentlemen, they are the last that we'll see this morning. We've seen some good contenders for big races here coming up at Epsom in the next 10 days. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've picked up a pointer or two for the classics here at Epsom.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you once again. Good morning to you once again, and a very warm welcome to the Investec Breakfast with the Stars as we build towards the most important festival in flat racing, the Oaks and the Derby, just a matter of days away now. And as so many of us gather in this room to enjoy and appreciate something we love, it seems entirely appropriate that we should just take a pause to remember those who lost their lives in Manchester last evening, attending an event, doing something that they loved, and who were killed and injured by a senseless act of violence. And it seems appropriate we should remember them and pause for just a few moments as we do so. Thank you very much. We turn our thoughts then to one of the great events in the sport of horse racing, the Investec Derby. And once again, thank you so much for coming this morning here to Epsom Downs. It started a beautiful morning, it's just clouded over a little, but I hope you had a chance to feast your eyes on some fantastic horses, and thanks to all the connections who've once again brought them here to Epsom today. And it is an event that has yielded significant success as regards finding Derby and Oaks winners down the years that have come here to gallop, from Casual Look in 2003 to Motivator to Pour Moi to the 1-2 in the Derby 2 years ago, Golden Horn and Jack Hobbs. And terrific to see both Andrew Balding and Jon Gosselin here again, Hugo Palmer and Martin Meade, and we'll be speaking to them during the course of this morning. ITV's Ollie Bell is on hand to interview many of the leading connections. Thanks to Jim McGrath for his excellent commentary as ever, and we'll also be having phone interviews with some of those with many runners at Epsom, most notably Aidan O'Brien, who'll be joining us on the line from Ballydoyle very shortly. But first of all, I'd like to welcome to the stage the man who has struck in the Oaks with his only runner to date. It was 14 years ago. Her name was Casual Look. He is in the most unbelievable vein of form, and with him, the man who's been partnering many of his horses to success recently. It is the Master of Kingsclear, Andrew Balding, and Oisin Murphy, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew and Oisin represented by Horseplay in this year's Investec Oaks. Andrew, it doesn't seem to me like 14 years since those magical moments here and then in the winner's circle famously with Claire after Casual Look's victory, but it might do to you as a trainer of racehorses.
Feels like about 50, to be honest. It's 14 years.
And just as regards this year, your horses are in tremendous form. Have you ever had such a concentrated clutch of good horses in the stable at Kingsclear since you've been training there?
No, certainly not. I think we've got
Filly Horsefly, she looked in terrific form this morning. Were you happy with the gallop?
I was very happy. I mean, Elbrus, who led her, is no
Now, Oisin, I calculated that when Andrew trained Casual Look to win the Oaks here, you were just 7 years old. An awful lot's happened since then. You've established yourself this season as one of the leading talents in the weighing room. How excited are you by Horseplay?
Yeah, she blew me away when she won a maiden at Nottingham on very soft ground. The form of that race has actually been nicely, not by a decisive margin, but on ground over 1.25 miles, and we feel that stepping up in distance will bring out more improvement. and obviously we know she's not ground dependent. I felt she handled the track as well as any horse I've ridden here this morning, so that's very positive. And I was well on top of Elbrus at the line. She took a fair bit of pulling up, and without pressing any buttons, I was really impressed. So look, everything's very positive, Nick, and we couldn't be happier with the filly, and they've done a great job with her at home. So looking forward to the race now.
Quite often, Andrew, trainers come here and they ask their riders to do one thing round here and it doesn't go quite to plan. Is that exactly what you wanted, anticipated and asked? Nothing like science.
I don't know.
Which of the two races that Elbrus sent against?
Well, yeah, obvious in terms of probably opposition, but mile and a quarter is her optimum trip, but she's been placed in a Group 1. It's a fantastic horse to have. I mean, she's running. Wherever we think we've got chance of winning some money.
One thing that we don't often ask at breakfast. Neither Asheen nor Leanne carrying much surplus, but no gentleman could do that, Andrew.
No, put it this way.
Enough said. Best of luck with horseplay. Asheen, best of luck. Thanks so much for talking to us. Gentlemen, all the best. Andrew Balding and Asheen Murphy. Delighted to say that, as is custom at Breakfast with the Stars, the Master of Ballydoyle, Aidan O'Brien, joins us on the line now. Aidan, who should and could be mob-handed in this year's Derby, also has a number of horses engaged in the Investec Oaks and the Coronation Cup, both of which he's won several times as well. Aidan, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Great to have you with us here in front of a packed house at Epsom. You suggested at the weekend that it would pretty well definitely not be the Derby for Churchill, but it could very well be the Derby for the other 7 that were foremost in your mind, the 3 from the Derrinstown, the 3 from the Chester Vars and Cliffs of Moher from the D Stakes. Has anything changed between then and now?
No, I think and that's what we're thinking at the moment, Nick. Everything is going well with all those horses so far, I think that's what we're thinking at the moment, Nick, exactly.
So if those 7 are all hale and hearty, they'll all be here on Epsom Downs on Derby Day?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance, Nick. Like obviously the lads will have to discuss it amongst themselves and be happy about it. But I think there's a very good chance that that's what could happen, Nick. Yes.
And as regards the horse that seems to have dominated most people's thoughts from Ballydoyle as regards its race the last few days, Cliffs of Moher, all the time experts saying that he's very much the one to beat. Ryan Moore speaking very positively about him after the D Stakes. Is he, in your mind, the horse that is, if you like, the clubhouse leader at the moment? Is he, in your mind, the horse that has the best chance in the race?
I suppose, like obviously we were very happy in Chester, and if he won, we were going to be very happy, and he did, and he went to the line very well. So I think, and we think that he's going to improve, and he's done a couple of pieces back since, and we're very happy with that. But the Derrinstown 3, should we say, they have their preparations all went very well. They came forward from their first to their second run, and we think and hope that they should come forward again. And then the 3 horses in the Vase in Chester are 3 kind of solid 1.5 mile horses that will stay, like will obviously get the 1.5 mile well, and even could get further. So it's very. I suppose the 3 Derrenstown horses, any 3 of those could step up again too, Nick. Obviously, Cliffs of Moher, the same. We think will step up, and then obviously the 3 horses from the Vars are solid galloping horses, you know. So it's like the next probably 10 days is going to be very interesting. But none of the horses at this stage have they've all only done everything to please us, really.
Aidan, how much work would you do with these horses between now and the Derby? How much serious work would they get between now and Derby Day?
I suppose, Nick, they're all on their own separate programs. There's a program done out for each horse from race to race, and like obviously some horses take a lot of work, some take very little work, some take no work. So that they're all on their programs, and that what has been set out for them, and obviously they have to kind of keep passing the tests along that program as they go along, and they've all done that in a very good way, and we're very happy with what we're seeing at the moment. But obviously the next 10 days will be the most serious part of the work.
Just looking at the 2 trials where you had the 1, 2, 3 in each trial, so the Derrenstown where you had Douglas MacArthur beating Yucatan and Capri, and then the Chester Vars in which Venice Beach beat Wings of Eagles and the Anvil. Are there any of the horses that didn't win those races that you think are open to significant improvement?
I would think so. I think Capri, obviously Douglas MacArthur's a horse that, like we always thought, would stay further than 1.25 miles, and that's what he showed at Leopardstown. He came back going to the line to put his head back in front. Capri, we think, will improve, and will improve going the 1.5 miles and the third run. Yucatan, we would say the same. Like he's a horse that we think is going to get the 1.5 miles. We're not guaranteed sure, but has the demeanour and the go of a horse that would. He loves nice grounds, and he can quicken really well, and he has a great mind. Venice Beach will stay very well. Like he will obviously get every yard of the 1.5 miles. The Anvil the same, and the third horse that ran in Winds of Eagles that ran in the Vars the very same. So, and then Cliffs of Moher is the horse. Before Chester, we weren't even sure that he would get 1.25 miles. Like he's out of a very fast mare, and like he won his maiden over 7, and like he really dominated with pace. So that's what we were very happy with in Chester, that he was relaxed and he went to the line very strong. So and obviously would have learnt a lot. He was a horse only after having 2 runs, and he was a little bit behind in his fitness. So that's why we were extra happy with him as well in Chester.
Aidan, I know you tend to sort your jockey arrangements out as near to the final decks as you possibly can. At this stage, would you be anticipating Ryan more on Cliffs of Moher?
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate it, or I wouldn't be sure. Obviously, Ryan will get all the information and talk to everybody, and then make his decision. But I wouldn't think that's a foregone conclusion by any means. But obviously, it is very possible, Nick.
And I was just counting up. You've got a terrific stable of jockeys at the moment. Not just Ryan, but also your trusted allies, Shamie Heffernan, Colm O'Donoghue, your son Donica, your daughter Anna, Emmett McNamara, Poreg Beggy. It's looking like you're not going to have to look too much further afield, even if you do run 7. Would that be fair? You pretty much got all the tools in your armory.
I know. Listen, we have obviously we have we're very lucky. We have great riders, Nick, and every year goes by it's we've an unbelievable team of riders, you know. So obviously we're very happy with everyone. Like I say, we have a great team of riders, really.
Just looking to the Oaks, you've got Rhododendron, who ran such a good race when she was second to your filly Winter in the 1,000 guineas. And you've also got the Cheshire Oaks runner-up, Alluringly. Are they the likeliest two for the Investec Oaks?
Yeah, I think so. The plan is obviously to go straight there with Rhododendron, and Alluringly is looking at it as well. We were very happy with Rhododendron in the guineas, and she's a filly we always thought would stay much further than 1 mile. Alluringly ran a very good race at Chester. We were delighted with her run. She was a little bit raw and a little bit green. but we were delighted with her run and finished out her race very well. So they're the two, obviously, that we're looking at the most at the moment.
And as far as the Coronation Cup, Highland Reel's been a wonderful money spinner for you. It looks the obvious target for him. Will he be joined by his brother Idaho or by the Philly 7th Heaven, Order of St George US Army Ranger? What's the thinking there?
Yeah, we're thinking at the moment, 7th Heaven had a little bit of a setback, so she probably won't be back out again until the autumn. But we're thinking that the brothers might go there. Obviously, Highland Reel and Idaho. That's what we're thinking at the moment.
Are they similar horses, Aidan? I know it sounds a daft question because they're full brothers, but temperamentally, are they similar? In ability-wise, do you think Idaho will ever get up to Highland Reel's level?
We always thought he would. He's probably physically he's maybe a bit stronger and bigger than Highland Reel, but has made great progress all the time. And just things haven't fallen for him. Unusual things have happened with him, like we saw what happened in the Ledger, and things that weren't obviously he couldn't do anything about. But we think he is progressing all the time, and we think he will progress through the year.
And Aidan, just finally, I noticed in today's birthdays in the Racing Post, a certain Joseph O Brien, but I had to do a double take when I realised he was only 24. That's made the entire room feel thoroughly inadequate, but I'm sure you're very proud of what he's achieved, and particularly given the fact that he might yet have a Derby runner this year in rekindling.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Nick. It's great, really, and I know, obviously, himself and Donegal were very happy with rekindling in York. Listen, so it would be great. Obviously, it's something we'd be really looking forward to it.
But it goes without saying there'll be no quarter given. Aidan, thanks so much and best of luck. Look forward to seeing you here at Epsom.
Yeah, please God, appreciate it, Nick. Thanks very much.
Aidan O'Brien, the master of Ballydoyle. Ollie Bell, ladies and gentlemen, joins us. Ollie will be part of ITV's first coverage for some time of the Investec Derby. Ollie, who have you got?
Well, currently don't have Jon Gosselin, but he is going to make his way over to us. I saw him giving a critical analysis of the Jockey Club smoothies to Ian Renton a moment ago, so I think he's enjoying one of those. If I can get Jon Gosselin to come up, we're going to talk to John about Cracksman, who we just saw work out there. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Gosselin, of course, a dual Derby winning trainer. Hello. How was the smoothie?
It was very good. I had to quickly taste something. I just come up from the stables. Yeah, I didn't get too croaky. I loved Aidan's interview. It was as good as ever. I'm going to put him in charge of the Ministry of Disinformation. And I thought Nick answered all his questions very well.
Yeah. No pressure for me, and hopefully, given that you're going to give us lots of fascinating information here, I'm actually going to steal a question from Nick, if that's okay, Nick. And that is by saying that when you go out on the track, you have a plan as to how you want these pieces of work to go. Did that with Cracksman go according to plan?
Yeah, we like to go back to the other side of the road at the top, cross over there, and then just come down off the hill and go a nice half speed to, pick it up down Tattenham Corners, because you want to get them on the correct leg, which is a near fall. Turn over there, then you cross another road, and then you join, you come through, and we always pull up in the dip. Because actually here, when you race, you come to the top, but actually, as you well know, it then runs away from you again. So you don't want a fresh horse particularly pulling up down a hill. But after they run a mile and a half in the Derby, they usually, new approach, he ran off to the end, didn't he? I thought Golden Horn went to the end as well, but it takes a good one to go all the way to the bottom.
Was this less of a fact-finding mission, given what he did at Epsom in a race last time?
Yeah, he's run round here, he's run well, he got pocketed, and then he picked up a nice horse who was race-fit and street-wise, and so he's come on a lot, but I couldn't run last week, sadly. I was sorry for York. The ground was exceptionally good before the rain came. And now there's not one part of that track that jockeys didn't try and find. So I didn't fancy running him just 16 days out from the Derby in what would be testing Naysmar conditions. I didn't think that would do him any good. And so we came...
And yet the result must have satisfied you, given who won it.
Yeah, the result was obviously positive from our point of view. I think a lot of nice colts around. We're all perfectly aware there isn't a rhododendron, if you like, amongst the boys. But to that extent, it's a very open, competitive race.
Just to get slightly technical, no Derby winner since 2000 has been rated less than 108. Does it slightly concern you that he hasn't achieved what in recent years would be the norm for a winner of this great race?
I don't know what they rated the winner of the Dante, do you? No. Well, he'd have been rated maybe a pound or two above that. Look, ratings have never concerned me. I managed to win a Lingfield Oaks trial the other day off 76. So personally, I don't want my life controlled by the official ratings. If the horse is in good form and you want to run them, run them.
Okay. And he is in good form, you're happy?
Yeah, no, happy with him this morning. Yeah, he did everything right, and he's full of himself down at the stables. He's wanted to come for breakfast here, but we gave him his grub instead. So
there was a loose horse at Redcar that ended up in the stable lads' canteen. I don't know whether you saw that.
No, I didn't.
Benny the Dip, Golden Horn, you've won this great race. Is it a different feeling for you going into this year's than with the Oppenheimer's other horse, Golden Horn, who was obviously a big fancy in the Derby?
Yeah, he was a very, very strong, legitimate favourite, and his performance in the Dante said it all. And then they repeated the Dante form here, 1-2 with Jack Hobbs. Yeah, look, we like this horse a lot, but he's a different type altogether. He's out of a nice mare that was tough. She comes with a lovely family. There's stamina, believe it or not, on the damn side, and he has a long stride on him. And I think the 1.5 miles will be right up his alley. We didn't supplement him for fun in April. Mr. Oppenheimer was in the Galapagos at the time and very kindly gave me permission from there. I think he was looking to Darwinian genetics and thought this was the way to go. He's obviously studying the pedigree, but we put him in at that stage, so we didn't have the awful business of do we, don't we? And it is quite expensive to supplement. In the case of Golden Horn, luckily he won the money in the Dante to play with the house money, if you like. Here, obviously, if we didn't run in the Dante, we weren't playing with the house money. I might have had to look into my piggy bank.
I actually got to see it intermediate science GCSE, so Darwinian genetics is slightly out of my depth, John. But if we can get back to what I know slightly more about, which is the Oaks fillies, Enabled, Coronet, will they run here in the Investec Oaks?
Yes, very much so. They're both pointed to run here. Enabled we're very happy with since Chester. She put in a fine performance there and handle the track well. I mean, obviously Aidan likes to use Chester as a sort of teaching ground for Epsom, and it was Kieran who got him to do that, along with the executive of Chester, and now we can't get a possible winner of the Vase or the D or anything else. But no, she ran great, Enabled. She comes here all being well, and Coronet ran a very nice trial in St. Allery at Deauville. She was slow away, but finished very strongly to grab third on the line.
And Shutter Speed, just to confirm, will go to France for the Prix de Diane?
Yeah, we've always been pretty clear about that from the beginning, so if anyone backed their anti-post for the Oaks, they weren't reading the press.
And just finally, because I'll speak to John Ferguson in a moment, we've heard from Aidan O'Brien. With regards to the Derby, it's an open race, as you've touched on. Do you think your biggest challenge comes from Ireland and Ballydoyle, or the boys in blue and Godolphin this year?
I think the biggest challenge is for the jockeys to get a clear run. Because I think this will be probably a pretty big field. Might be a couple in there who'll be wheeling back at the wrong time, who probably shouldn't have been put in the race. And I think the jockeys are the guys who've got far bigger problem than us trainers trying to steer a course around there.
John, as always, fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Gosselin.
News recently that Investec had extended their Derby sponsorship until 2026, and we welcome all our representatives from Investec here today. And with that news under his belt, time for us to welcome to the stage the Regional Director of Jockey Club Racecourses for the London region, which encompasses, I should say, Sandown and Kempton, as well as Epsom Downs. Phil White, ladies and gentlemen. Phil, let's just start on the news of Investec's extension to the sponsorship. That must reassure you hugely.
That's fantastic. Investec have been brilliant sponsors of the race since 2009, and we're absolutely delighted that they're extended till 2026, which is a 5-year extension on their deal. They're a great partner to work with. They're creative, they're passionate, as we are, and we've got a really good partnership, and having another 10 years from this year to work with them gives us real certainty and helps us build towards the future together.
Not only your commercial partnership with Investec to talk about, but also a couple of other partnerships. Unibet starting their role as official betting partner for the next 3 years, and the much talked about Poundland Hill, which has been discussed and debated widely in racing circles. They're probably not that far outside that. What's your take on Poundland sponsorship and the reaction that it's garnered?
I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us to work with a partner to reinvigorate the hill. Poundland are a high street brand. They've got over 500 stores nationwide. They're a fantastic team that we've met recently, and we're working to reinvigorate that hill. We want to attract families to come onto the hill. I mean, this year we've doubled the size of our hillside enclosure. That's got a huge amount of activities for families to come and enjoy the weekend. And there's a car rally up on Tattenham Corner, and the Pound End have got their own enclosure to educate and attract families and children to come to understand the Derby and race him.
So you're trying to bring back some of that age-old flavour to the hill and really sort of make it buzz again a little bit, if that's perhaps been lacking in recent years.
Well, the hill is unique. The hill is unique, and it's it's a carnival out on the hill. It attracts people from all walks of life. It's really what makes the Investec Derby Festival quite special. We want to make sure that we can protect and further that over the forthcoming years, and absolutely we want to attract more people to come and enjoy world-class racing on the hill this year and for many years to come.
And evidently in the events of last night, in light of the events of last night, anyone who runs a major venue, leisure venue now has to be acutely aware of the security implications. What plans are Epsom putting in place? Indeed, can you reassure us that they will be as robust as they need to be in these times?
Well, firstly, it's deeply saddening what happened last night, and our thoughts with everyone involved and affected by the Manchester attack last night. People's safety and security is our number one priority. It always has been. We've been working with Surrey Police and all other partners to ensure that we've got robust and appropriate measures in place for the Derby, and that hasn't changed. But of course, with last night being a developing situation, we'll of course be in constant contact, as we would have been anyway, with the police leading up to the event.
Well, wish you well for the Investec Derby Festival, and great news for the extension of the sponsorship. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Phil White, the Regional Director of Jockey Club Racecourses here in the London region. Ollie, it's not just the Coolmore organisation who could be mob-handed in this year's Derby. Who have you got? You found a familiar face by the looks of it.
The blogger.
The racing blogger's here, ladies and gents.
Winning owner as well from yesterday, so many congratulations to Stephen. I actually have found John Ferguson, but like Jon Gosselin, I think he's enjoying a Jockey Club smoothie as well. I'm not on commission to mention them, I should just say, but John enjoying
he is coming.
Enjoying the. Are we good to go? Yeah, it's just on apologies about that. How are you?
Very good indeed, thanks. Very good indeed.
Flustered you a bit.
Sorry, yeah, I was on the phone. Sorry.
No. Thank you for joining us. A really exciting Derby this year. We've heard from Meade and we've heard from Jon Gosselin, and now we're going to hear from you. Lots of people will be going into this year's race thinking they can win a Derby. How are Team Godolphin approaching it?
Yeah, I think very much the same way. I think at this stage we've got 5 names on the team sheet, and I think that obviously we've still got 10 days to go, and we'll see what happens over the next 10 days. But they've all 5 have genuinely legitimate chances, and it's a great way to be coming in.
I will just say the 5, and correct me if any of these aren't on the list. Best Solution, Atty Purse, Ben Battle, Dubai Thunder and Permian.
Atty Pierce goes for a 0 to 95 mile and a quarter at Haydock on Friday.
I thought so, given it won the Isha Cup, I thought that was slightly rogue.
Yeah, so that's nice. So no, the 5th is Permian, who won the Dante.
Yeah. Probably named 6 there, didn't I? Yeah. I wasn't good at science or maths at school, actually. That goes to show that. Let's go through them. The horses you mentioned, starting with Permian. Dante winner, you're going to supplement him for this race, and that has been a key trial in recent years.
Absolutely, and the supplementary isn't such a big deal for us because obviously we have hundreds of 3-year-old colts at the time of coming of entry. So we only enter a very few at the early stages, and then we supplement them if we feel they can be in the first 4. And obviously, if they can be in the first 4, they'll make their money back. And a horse like Permian has improved so much, from when he ran here, and then improved again to in the Newmarket Stakes so impressively, and then improved again to in the Dante. That I think he's a horse with a really, really big chance. And he's by Teofilo out of Tenerife, and that's the family of Miesque. It's the second dam. He has a superb world-class pedigree, and he's put up a couple of really, really good performances. So I think he's a great chance.
Fairly quick, just over 2 weeks back up from the Dante into the Derby. How did he come out of what is always a fairly tough race?
He's trained by Mark Johnson, so that's a holiday.
That's a very good line. Very true, actually.
Yeah, no, he'll be fine.
He's fine. He's eaten up. He's all well at home.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in great nick, and he's come out of the race really well. And I think he'll turn up in great shape.
Now, Kieran Fallon on ITV has been raving about Best Solution, who won the Lingfield Derby trial. He's really sweet on this horse's chances. He hasn't had the most sort of common prep, given that he raced twice on the dirt in Dubai this year, but he was impressive at Lingfield.
Yeah, and I think, at the end of the day, the one question mark about Best Solution, I think he's answered, which is whether he'd stay the trip. And I think the Lingfield Derby trial was the perfect trial for him for that reason, because obviously he's by Kodiak, and there'll be a question mark over Trip. But you know, he's a group winner as a 2-year-old, which is important. He's shown top class form as a 2-year-old. He's had a couple of runs in Meade, but got the sunshine through the winter. He's come back here and he's won a Lingfield Derby trial in devastating fashion. And again, you know, he's just thoroughly deserves to be there. And I think he'll be in the shake-up.
And again, he's in good form.
Yeah, he's in great form, really good form. But besides 3 are all in really, really good form. So we'll just see how they go over the next 10 days.
Well, let's talk about the other two then. Dubai Thunder, who arguably is the most fascinating of all the runners, given that he burst onto the scene just a few days ago and he bolted up in a maiden at Newbury. Did that come as a surprise to you, what he was able to achieve on the race course?
The manner with which he did it surprised me, but the fact of the matter was he's always shown to be a talented horse at home, you know. And he's a Dubawi, and he comes from a really good family. He's a brother to Far, who, as you all know, won the Champion Stakes. So again, he's got a pedigree that can get the job done. It was a mile and a quarter at Newbury, soft ground, and he's blitzed them. So it's a big ask to come here on your second run. It's a big ask. You know, they did it with Lamtara many years ago, but it's a big ask from an experience point of view. But if Saeed feels it's the right thing to do, who am I to tell him no? Because you know he knows more about the horse than I do, and I think it's a great punt. And Sheikh Mohammed loves having horses in the Derby, and loves coming to Epsom. So I think it makes sense to run him. And then finally, obviously, Ben Battle. Ben Battle is a Dubai out of a Group 1 winner, and he's a horse that's been going so well. You know, placed in the Craven, and then obviously, you know, he's progressed again and was, you know, second in a Dante, and again he's a horse that's progressing. So really exciting.
Can I talk to you about jockeys? Because William obviously appealing the ban that would rule him out of the Derby if that stays. James is currently in Australia at the moment. Franny rode Permian, who rides a lot for Mark Johnson when he won the Dante. What is the state of play with regards to who will be Team Godolphin jockey-wise for the Derby?
Well, jockeys is something we'll work out over the next few days. James Doyle, as you say, is in Australia at the moment because we've got a big 2 weekends down there on the Gold Coast, and he's got 3 Group 1 rides on Saturday. He'll come straight back here, and so he'll be back for the meeting. And as you say, William has got to get off this. I say get off. He's got to request very nicely to the BHA that they reduce it from 5 days to 4 days, and then he could ride in the Derby, and obviously then we'll have some ideas as what we're going to do.
So you expect James and, all being well, William to be part of your team that will ride in the Derby for you?
I hope so. Yeah, no, I think so.
Can I ask a slightly rogue question, perhaps? But Josephine Gordon has ridden quite a lot for you this year, as has Adam Kirby. Would they come into consideration for a Derby ride?
Absolutely. Well, obviously Adam Kirby rode Dubai Thunder at Newbury. He knows the horse well. But as I said, I don't want to commit to jockeys at this stage because it's early days. And then, of course, we've got Best of Days, who's just worked here today. And Michael Hills was thrilled with him. And he worked with Kid Me Never, who's a nice horse. So it's all to play for.
And just from a sort of Team Godolphin point of view, you have won, as you know, a lot of big races around the world in recent years, but a Derby has been missing. Is there an element within the ranks that there's a point to prove this year?
Lamtara was trained by Godolphin to win the Derby.
It was a few years ago, though.
Yeah, absolutely, but we have won one. I would say that no, there's no point to prove. At the end of the day, we're a stable that wants to maximise the potential of every horse, and if we've got a horse good enough to win the Derby, we'd very much like to win the Derby. But at the end of the day, you know, this is one of the great races around the world, and of course, it's a huge challenge and something we'd love to do. And
do you think you've got a horse good enough to win this year's Derby?
I think it's a very open Derby, and I think it would not surprise me if one of them won.
Okay. Exciting. Best of luck. John Ferguson, ladies and gentlemen.
It may very well be an open Derby, but it helps if you've won it not once but twice before. It took him a while. He got there in 2007 with Authorised to great raptures from the crowd, and then 2 years ago to an even bigger reception on Anthony Oppenheimer and Jon Gosselin's Golden Horn. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, seeking his 3rd victory in the Investec Derby, Mr. Frankie Dettori. Looking unusually sharp on this occasion. Normally you turn up in the British, you must be going somewhere special.
I'm not very proud of it, but I'm going to do loose women for lunchtime.
Just for the avoidance of doubt, that's a television program on ITV, and
that's what John said. What? Loose women?
Well, good luck with loose women. I promise to ask you gentler questions than I'm not even sure who's on the program now, but anyway, they're all very lovely. I'm sure they'll look after you. You'll charm them, as you always do. How was Cracksman this morning?
Good, yeah. We did a bit of a routine stuff like we did with Golden Horn 2 years ago. We just started at a mile and just getting around Tattenham Corner, and we pulled up at the furlong marker. So if I passed the winning post at snail pace, is because I was already pulling up.
How's the ground out there today?
The ground, I felt like it was slow side of good. Great nick. I think it was perfect for everyone.
Would that be what you'd want for him on the day? I was talking to Anthony, and I know we're going to talk to him a little bit later on. He was suggesting that he thought pedigree-wise he might be better on a slightly quicker surface.
Listen, I've only raced on him once, so I'm not completely 100% sure what kind of ground he wants, but I must say they do a fantastic job here, and you know, if we don't get any sort of rain, the ground is usually perfect.
One thing I know you do think is that he's a horse with lots and lots of talent. I remember you saying that to me at Newmarket's Craven meeting before he'd even come here and run in the Blue Ribbon. Has he gone forward like you wanted him to?
Yeah, look, his horse was only run twice, so you expect him to improve. What happened at Epsom actually was a blessing because it was a slow run race and he had to move out, he had to quicken, and he had to do a lot of things. So he answered every call, and it was great to see the second winning the Dante and the fourth one a very competitive race at Chester. So it gives me a lot of confidence now going into the race that we have a horse he can be very competitive, and we can go to war with something that, you know, he's going to be close to favoritism. So I am excited. He's not Golden Horn yet by any means, but potentially he can be anything, and a week Saturday we'll find out.
I know you don't mind me taking you down memory lane, as long as those memories are good ones. Authorised and Golden Horn, two of the sort of marquee moments in your career, if you like, but very different. One was the long wait, and the other one was the mark of a glorious comeback, really. And your emotions, particularly after Golden Horn, will live long, long in my memory, and Anthony and John's, I should think.
Yeah, you know, I stated many times that my 30 years career is the biggest emotion than I ever had, for many reasons, and I think it'll be very difficult to top it. But you know, every year we come to the Derby, somebody said, you know, is it the best racing day of the year? Well, it's only the best racing day of the year if you win it, but it's nerve-wracking, it's hard work, it's a lot of thoughts, concentration, and planning, and the track is very challenging. So it is not the best racing day, but it's the most difficult, and it's only the best if you do win it. But that's what makes the Investec Derby such a wonderful and unique race, because for all those kind of things. And again, we're coming into it this year where I've got the same thoughts.
So it's all that intensity of the build-up and trying to deal with the publicity at the same time as trying to work out in your own mind to get yourself focused for the day. That's why you get that explosion of joy when you cross the line in front.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but when you do come to Epsom on the days, you just, you know, it is challenging emotionally and planning, like I said, for all those various reasons. And Epsom is a unique track, and it looks like we're going to have a full field this year as well, so you got to put that into consideration. So it is pretty stressful, but when you win, is rewarding, and I hope to do it again.
You're wearing it very well. I can't let you go without asking you about the Oaks, because you might just have won that before you get to the Derby this year. The filly at Chester Enable was very impressive. Were you as impressed as the rest of us?
I was surprised, actually. Basically, I rode her in the spring. She was nice, and by watching the Newbury race, I thought, well, she looks nice there, a little bit one pace. But what she showed me at Chester is that she whizzed around that turn like a greyhound, and for what I thought staying filly, she showed a good turn of foot. So I'm very excited about her, and I think she's going to run a decent race. The favourite comes with all the best credentials, but you know, I think she's going to do well.
Enjoy the Derby, but most importantly, enjoy Loose Women. Don't do a flying dismount this afternoon.
Thanks.
Frank Editori, ladies and gentlemen.
Oliver Bell. On that note, Nick,
you're doing well rounding them up, aren't you?
I've got to wait here because they're all tucking into the wonderful breakfast supplied by the Jockey Club. Now, Martin Meade and Jim Crowley are the next people I'm going to speak to. If I could get Martin over and Jim's got to dash off actually, so we'll chat to them. Obviously, we saw Eminent, their contender in the Derby, work just a few moments ago. It's Jim's second ride in the Derby. He rode Algometer in the race last year, and it's Martin's first runner in the race, so an exciting time for all the team. There was the seal of approval from the grandstand with Eminent's work. What did the trainer make of it?
Well, obviously I wasn't on the grandstand, so I didn't see what happened there, but I was absolutely thrilled. He did exactly what we wanted him to do. We didn't want to overdo him today. And for me, it was absolutely perfect. Just could not have been better.
Okay. And is that jockey's view as well?
No, I was really happy with him. Yep. We just went from the mile, and he came down the hill really well and changed legs nicely, and he galloped out through the line really well.
There are a few racing fans in this room today, and we've discussed a lot about the horses that have worked out there, where the trainers, jockeys were pleased, but just explain the reasoning from a trainer's point of view for coming here pre-Derby so the horse can have a look at Epsom.
Well, I think there are two things as far as this horse is concerned. First of all, he hasn't actually been away from Newmarket in his entire life, so therefore I think to have a new experience was very, very important for him. There are two things. I wanted him to come here and stay overnight as well, to get used to a different environment, although he will actually travel on the day, on Derby Day. And I just wanted to see how he would actually act under different circumstances, and particularly around this track, which obviously is very unusual. I had always the feeling that he was going to react well, and I think he did that according to Jim. He's borne that out as well.
Yeah. Trip with him?
Trip, well, this is what we've been waiting for, I think. I think when he won his maiden, that was the most significant thing that came out of it. I mean, the time that it took for Jim to pull him up. And I always thought at that stage, well, this mile, he does really want more. He never ran under a mile, that was all. And then, of course, winning the Craven, and then we thought we'd have a go at the Guineas, but I'm afraid that didn't really work out well. So I think we're on track now for his distance, and I don't think he's 1 mile 2. I think this is his distance.
Okay. What did you make of the Guineas run? Did anything come to light after it? Were you happy with it in the circumstances, or was it a bit disappointing, all things considered?
Oh, extremely disappointing, yes. No, I wasn't happy about it at all. But I think that was it. I mean, it was just one of those things, it just wasn't for us, that race. I think things didn't go according to plan. Maybe it came a little bit soon after the Craven. There are a number of things you can put it down to. But I mean, as far as the horse is concerned, physically and mentally, there was no explanation. But it was just a difficult race, I think.
Yeah. And did he ride in the Guineas like a horse who was sort of crying out for a step up and trip?
Yeah, not so much in the Guineas. In the Craven he was. Like I said, he galloped out really well that day, and like I said, he had both the Craven and the Guineas was very fast ground, and like I said, coming here this morning, a little bit of juice in the ground, he's loved it, and like I said, I had a job to pull him up, and he just he gave me the feel today like he did, going to post in the Craven that day.
Clerk of the course, Andrew Cooper's behind you. You mentioned that there was a little bit of juice in the ground. What would be his ideal conditions, do you think, Jim?
Well, look, he's one on good to firm, but he's a big horse, and I think he's probably best with a little bit of cut, just good ground. He'd probably handle good to soft as well.
Do you look at what you've seen from the Dante winner, the other trialists, the Chester trialists, the trials in Ireland, and is there one particular horse that's standing out that you're fearful of over the others?
No, not really. I think everybody's in the same boat. They always say Guineas form is always the best form for a Derby, and this horse who things didn't go to plan for him that day, and he might have run up to form. So, and he still finished very close. Obviously not to Churchill, but the rest of them in a bit of a bunch. So, like I said, coming here, stepping up in trip, and I'm pretty confident he'll stay. He should go close.
I know that pre-race, particularly a Derby, jockeys and trainers are pretty reticent to sort of nail their confidence down, if you like. But can you put it into words how confident you are with Eminent's chances going into a Derby?
Well, it's hard to say, but I suppose if you ask me if I pick a ride in the race, and I'm not just being biased, I'd choose him. Good thing is, being a Frankel as well, he came here this morning, he was very, very relaxed, and he took it all in his stride, and that's going to be a massive plus on the day as well.
What did you make of your first Derby experience last year?
Yeah, ran well. I think I had a good spin round, finished 6th, and but like I said, this horse would be hopefully a lot better than him.
And how are you feeling? Jim's experienced it before. First runner in the race for you, Martin.
well, just very nervous. And in a way, you sort of savour the moment, but at the same time, you want to sort of get on with it now and get it over with almost. And it's just this interim sort of period of the next sort of 10 days or so, looking after him and being paranoid about it all the time. But it's just such a wonderful privilege to actually have a horse capable of running in this race.
And in terms of his work going into the Derby, what will he do between now and next Saturday?
He'll have one small piece of work for that.
And when will that be?
That's why I didn't want him to overdo himself today.
And how far out will that be? Will that be fairly soon?
Yeah, it'll be the beginning of next week.
Okay, excellent stuff. Jim Crowley, Martin Meade, exciting times with them, and a very positive update there from Martin and Jim. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim and Martin Meade. Thank you.
Eminence, sixth in the 2000 Guineas on Newmarket's Rolling Mile, a tried and tested route being down the pack in the Guineas to Derby glory, a route that hasn't been tried to success since 1939. Blue Peter was victory in the Investec Derby trial here, amazingly, and then victory in the Derby itself. Cracksman is the horse that is trying to buck that trend. We've heard from his rider, Frankie Dettori. We've heard from Jon Gosselin. Let's hear now from the man who owns the horse, and just as importantly, if not more, bred Cracksman as he did the great Golden Horn. Anthony Oppenheimer, ladies and gentlemen. And as you've heard from John and Frankie, Cracksman was forced to miss the Dante last week owing to the ground being unsuitably soft and being a little bit too close to the race, but he's here today, which is great, and he's got more experience, Anthony, round Epsom than all the others, which must hearten you a little.
Certainly does. No, he went round it very well indeed.
And when you came to the Derby with Golden Horn, there were all sorts of doubts about whether he'd stay the Derby distance, whether that was really what he was made for and bred for, and he confounded us all. As regards this horse, have you always thought of him as a mile and a half horse, middle distance horse?
No, I comes from quite a fast female family, but both, well, everyone says that he's going to stay, so I have to believe them, because he seems to be very happy and relaxed, and I mean, Frankie will tell you, and so will John, that he'll definitely stay.
And after last time, and you were quite right in thinking, well, you know, I've been marshalling these bloodlines for a generation now. You know, I should know what stays and what doesn't stay. Have you started to toss the pedigree book aside a little bit when it comes to assessing what races horses should run in?
No, you're quite right. Of course, I should do that. I mean, I don't really have very many colts a year. I mean, he comes from one. I had 6, you know, and he's one of the 6. And I think he did look actually much more as a yearling, more outstanding than actually Golden Horn did, in a way.
Golden Horn furnished and developed into a lovely horse. Tell us a little bit about Golden Horn and how he changed your life as an owner, a breeder, and sort of what impact he had on you and your whole family.
Well, fantastic impact on my family. I had at least most of my grandchildren at the Derby, so suddenly I've got a family that enjoys racing. Before that, they'd hardly ever seen a winner. They wondered whether, you know, what was the point to the start. So that was very exciting indeed. And I mean, from all the people at the start and everybody involved with the start, it's been a tremendous boost.
I suppose when you're breeding the horse as well, and you're not just splashing the cash and buying a horse, you're nurturing it. You've got a whole team of people whose lives this can really affect.
Oh, incredible! I mean, you can a long list. I don't know where to start, but obviously the staff will get a tremendous boost at the start. But then you've got Jon Gosselin's stable. You've got the people who own the stallion. There are so many people involved. It's just amazing.
If I take you back to that day in 2015, I'm sure you relive it over and over and over again. The abiding memory is I thought Frankie Dettori was never going to let you go. And I was wondering at one point whether he was going to do you some physical injury in the Wooders enclosure there. But the sheer disbelief on your face that you'd done it, you'd bred the Derby with.
Well, I'm not sure about disbelief, but I mean, it certainly was fantastic. Amazingly exciting. No, really, with Frankie, I was just trying to avoid him kissing me.
You didn't manage it. Even Sir Michael Stow didn't escape getting a kiss. As regards this year's race, how worried are you, if at all, that you haven't pumped enough experience into him?
I would have liked to have run in the Dante if the weather had been, you know, the ground had been right. I think he's quite laid back, but he's woken up since his race at Epsom. you know, a bit more experience would do him no harm. But I'm afraid we haven't got it.
And finally, Anthony, if I'd said to you a couple of years ago, well, lightning has struck, it might strike twice in 2 years' time, what would you have said?
I wouldn't have believed you.
You better believe it now. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Anthony Oppenheimer, ladies and gentlemen, owner breeder of Cracksman. We've talked quite a bit about ground. Andrew Cooper is the clerk of the course and director of racing, and Ollie is standing with him right now.
Yes, I am, yes. Hello. Of course, even though I've been here for the last 5 minutes, I should have forewarned you, actually. I'm very sorry. But you look smart now, the jacket's on. How are you?
I'm very good, Ollie, thank you.
Talk us through the process then. Where are we now? Where do you want to be in a week's time? Where do you want to be on Derby Day?
Well, I think right now I'd say we're in a very good place with the ground here. Obviously benefited greatly from a nice drop of rain here last week. We had 3 nights of quite appreciable rain really. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. 15 mil, and then 12. So 42 mil in the period. Basically been dry since Friday morning. I mean, I think we've ridden here this morning, sort of. Slow side of good, I'd have thought. I mean, certainly walking it, though I've not been in the best form calling flat going yet this season. I'd have thought good to soft, sort of good places maybe if we're racing on it today. Certainly slow side of good, so nice ground in that respect. Grass cover's good, generally in good condition.
Has the weather that has been presented to you so far in 2017 made this a relatively easy Derby to prepare for?
Well, obviously, I mean, April was very difficult because April was obviously dry. It was as dry a month as we've known here in sort of 20 years' time. Spring meeting went okay. We raced here on sort of far side of good ground at the spring meeting when Cracksman run. As I say, I think certainly getting that rain last week was a big help because, watering's one thing, but you just cannot beat natural rain for going everywhere and bringing all the grass and lawn areas, on. You do need a bit of rain somewhere in the mix. So we were very pleased to see that last week.
How open a Derby do you think this year's is?
Well, I mean, potentially it looks very open, doesn't it? But we might see an absolutely outstanding performance in sort of 10 days' time, and it'll prove not to be quite such an open Derby as we all thought it was. Who knows? It's one of the great joys and excitements of this wonderful race.
And I think every year someone will ask you this question. I think I might be first this time round, but what do you expect the ground to be like on Derby Day, and what do you hope the ground is on Derby Day?
Okay, I mean, it's obviously incredibly difficult to sort of to say what we expect it to be because it's so far out. I mean, in terms of the weather outlook, we're expecting to stay dry here really until probably Monday of next week at the earliest. Getting hotter between now and then. It looks as though possibly Friday of this week might be the hottest day of the week. Could be somewhere in the mid to late 20s by then, potentially. But there's some signs coming in of a breakdown in the weather, perhaps from Bank Holiday Monday onwards, which should at least introduce cooler conditions and certainly brings with it the risk of some rain in the early part of next week. So, as I say, we're in a good place at the moment. This is ground that doesn't need us to be doing anything to it for at least a few days, if even then. We'll take a view with this track, I think, at the end of this week, taking account of the latest forecast, but we've certainly got no plans to do anything but leave it alone for a few days here. In terms of our intention with the ground, well, I think we've got a sort of tried and tested approach to it here. We don't want to be running and really wouldn't allow the Investec Derby to be run on ground quicker than good to firm, but good to firm ground is perfectly acceptable. So in terms of our thinking and planning, next week when it really is going down to the wire, we will be trying to make sure that, by the time we get to 4:30 on the Saturday, the ground isn't any quicker than good to firm.
Andrew Cooper, thank you for the update. I can see Hugo Palmer just around the corner, so I'll grab a quick word with Hugo as well, find out whether that ground report from Andrew filled him with confidence. Obviously, best of days. Hugo's first Derby runner, worked on the track just a few moments ago, and were you happy with what you saw?
Yeah, very happy with him. It's actually his second racecourse gallop in the space of a week. He worked at Chelmsford last week, and his work this morning was much better. It was a much stronger bit of work. He worked with a 70 rated horse on Thursday and a 104 rated horse this morning, so much more serious piece of work, and he found it much easier today, much less of a blow on him. We had a little bit of a setback 3 months ago with him, which is why he hasn't run in a trial. And we've got 12 days now to the Derby, but I think he's going to need every one of them.
Okay, so ideally you would have liked to have run him in a trial, and what exactly happened with him?
Oh yeah, I mean ideally we'd have loved to run him in a trial, but he got an injury in his back, which actually meant we were able to keep exercising him. He's been galloping for quite a long time on a treadmill, but even a jockey's quite a lot of weight on his back, so he went 6 weeks without a rider on him. But I'm incredibly pleased with how he's come back in the last few weeks, and his work this morning was great. But he's in the King Edward VII, he's in the Queen's Vase, he'll be put in the Irish Derby tomorrow. And so while the Derby is the Derby, and it's where we'd like to be, there's a lot of other nice races this season.
Okay, what will you need to see from him for the Derby to be the race that he runs in next?
Well, he's got to be I've got to be happy with him when I see him this evening, that he's moving well. He's got to take this work, and he's got to progress to his next bit of work very well, and then he's got to, Michael Hills rode in this morning, who was the last man to ride a horse first time out to win the Derby. If between Michael and I, when he works next time, we think he's got a chance of winning the Derby, then we'll run him, and if he doesn't, we'll wait for another day.
I think he's also waiting to give you a lift as well. He said be quick in this interview, but with you, I don't think that ever happens, which is great for all the journalists in the room. But listen, you spoke to the journalists after Saturday. You said you're going to run a few tests in the yard because the numbers haven't been what you would like in terms of winners. Have you done those? Is everything okay?
Yeah, look, I mean, we all live on winning races, and I just slightly sort of woke up this morning to that awful news in Manchester and realised that I'm moaning about not having won a race for 9 days. It does rather put things a little bit in perspective. I'm just going to make sure that the horses we run have got clean scopes and healthy bloods, and we're just going to run a few more tests than we would normally to make sure that we're not running anyone that's under the weather. I don't think we've got a problem.
You have had a runner in the Investec Oaks before. Actually, last year Architecture finished a very good second, and once again Vintage Folly will line up for your yard in that race. She was second in the Musadora. How is she?
She's great. I mean, I've always... no, that's a lie. As soon as she strengthened up, we realised that she was quite smart. And it was no surprise when she won first time out, beating an odds-on favourite. And we were waiting for a bit of juice in the ground, and she got that at York. You were just talking to Andrew there about the weather forecast. It's going to be warm and dry. She wouldn't run if it was good to firm ground, because she's got a Ribblesdale entry, an Irish Oaks entry, and all these other races we could run in, knowing she doesn't want fast ground. But if it was good ground, and she was closer to Shutter Speed than Enable was, and Enable's 4-1, and we're 20-1. So I think it would be quite hard if it was good ground or softer not to run.
Do you have a similar feeling going into it with this horse than you do with Architecture, who is similarly quite a big price and almost forgotten by the market, so to speak?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the Architecture we brought here because there was another week between the trials and the races this year, and Frankie rode her. And we didn't say it at the time, but I just got down to the stables, and all Frankie said to me was, win chance. And that was that. I instantly got butterflies in my stomach, and they didn't go for the next 2 weeks until she ran. But I've got a similar feeling about this horse. You know, she's been second in a Group 3, and Architecture was second in a listed race. So, but it's a different year, and we've, as I say, the weather's quite key.
Is Mikey giving you a lift back so you can rush back in time to see Frankie on Loose Women later?
I don't think so. I'm actually driving myself back.
Oh, really? Yeah. Mikey said he was giving you a lift. He's trying to get extra money out of you. Hugo, best of luck. Many thanks for the update. Hugo Palmer, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Young Ambassadors program has been running here at Epsom since 2014, and it aims to encourage a younger audience to Epsom Racecourse, in particular to this Investec Derby Festival. There are 6 young ambassadors in 2017, all in their mid-20s to mid-30s. They're based in London or around the Epsom area, and their briefs to raise Epsom's profile through social networks and social media, and they'll each bring a party of guests to the Oaks and the Derby. I'm delighted to say that a man who's been a young ambassador for a couple of years now is in the room now. He is Milap Patel, and Milap's going to come and have a chat with me. Round of applause for Milap, ladies and gents. One of Epsom's young ambassadors, based in London, but with something of an Epsom background, I think. I said to Milap earlier, the most smartly dressed man I'm going to interview, but then Frankie Dettori came along and nearly trumped you. Milap, great to see you. Tell us a bit about the Young Ambassadors and how you got involved.
Yeah, so the program this is the 4th iteration of the Young Ambassador program, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved from the very beginning. It's So what we try to do every year, the 6 of us, basically put together a hospitality day for people, young people under 30s, which are relatively new to racing. So that there's a massive emphasis on that, that they're relatively new, but also from a wide range of industries. And this is important because, for example, on our day last year, we had one person from the entertainment industry, media industry, sports. I'm in the art world myself. We've got bankers. So it's very important that the selection process is not just your mates, but people that have a positive impact. So, for example, this year, I've actually got 2 of my guests are in the top Forbes top 30 under 30 list, and 2 winners from that. So I actively go out there and trying to recruit these people so they can spread a positive message about Epsom going forward. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what it's about. And on the day, so we, across both Ladies' Day and Derby Day, we each ambassador gets to have about 16 guests across the 2 days. And it's a day to sort of educate them about racing, introduce them to betting, or everything that's fun to a new race goer, with a hope, with the insight that they'll become the next future generation of race goers. So a bit of succession planning, I think.
It's a fantastic initiative, and it's great that you're doing it. What, if anything, has surprised, delighted you, dare I say, disappointed you about your experience in horse racing the last few years?
Well, I can say an example, the 10 guests that I brought last year, all relatively new to racing, and on the back of this year, so as you said, we're very big on social media, and that's our sort of outlet to advertise and market these things. And this year, when it came around to choosing people, I'd been inundated with requests from various people saying, how can we get involved? And fortunately enough, my selection this year are 10 completely different people, but those people that I didn't choose on their own volition because of social media and their experience of this have bought tickets themselves. So it's all part of this evolution and the next steps. And for me, it's very positive that we can see this actually driving forward, which is the point of the program, and you can see it working.
Millap, you are the most honourable pyramid salesman I have ever come across. You're doing great work for Epsom, and thank you very much indeed. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Millap Patel, who is the young ambassador for Epsom Downs Racecourse. Oliver.
I've got Jem Whiteford here from Investec, and I'm on the Investec table. The whole team are here. And I know, having spoken to you in the lead up to this year's Investec Derby Festival, you and all the team are very excited about it. Just put us into words, if you can, how you and the team feel going into another year here at Epsom.
I think from Investec, we're just incredibly proud to work with such an iconic event, and just to be part of the Derby and its history for the last few years, and then knowing that we've got another 10 years going forwards is just a great thing. And I think as a team working on it, it just means you can really kind of get your teeth into ideas, and kind of the way we activate it, we really kind of put our heart and soul into it, even more than we do with our other sponsorships, I would say. People are here late nights, early mornings, but still love it. And then when it comes to the actual days, people just, you can see the excitement in the team, even though they're working hard.
You mentioned the extended sponsorship going to 2026. Just talk us through that process, and why with Investec and this Derby Festival you wanted to build such a long-term relationship with it.
Again, it just goes back to the fact that this race is so iconic, and it's really helped us to build our brand. And we work so well with the Jockey Club. I think we're a really good partnership. And to be able to know now that we've got such a long time together, it just means you can kind of put plans in place that are for more than a year, and things that might take a couple of years to kind of come to fruition. So it just gives you a really good sort of background. But again, it just comes back to the fact that to be associated with this race, even to be here today, to be involved with the Derby trials, it's actually a privilege as a corporate to be in this world.
That's great to hear. And not only is there sort of unique sporting competition out on the track during the 2 days of racing, but there's also a lot of fun to be had when you come here, lots of colour to be seen, and a great occasion wherever you are on the track to enjoy a fabulous weekend. What can we all look forward to for this weekend coming up at the Investec Derby Festival?
Oh, I'm not sure I'm the right person to be asking. I mean, we make the site look as beautiful as we can, but actually I suppose most of the things that are going on at the site, it's the Jockey Club that kind of are party to those. But again, we just know it's going to be fantastic, and I suppose the things that we've heard that are happening, they are going to add the sort of colour and spectacle for the festival. So we know it's going to be the best one yet.
to some wonderful images. Jen, many thanks, and great news regarding the sponsorship with Investec. Now, I'll go back to you, Nick, because not only have we got a unique event in terms of the European Raiders, we have a special runner in this year's Investec Oaks coming over from America, and you are the man to do this interview.
But as somebody said to me, Ollie, no tourist, this man. He has won just about every big race in America through a glittering career. He's trained Tiano Run and Harlan's Holiday and the Belmont Stakes winner Sarava and Take Charge Lady briefly took charge of the Great Curlin as well. He saddled Hardbuck to finish second in the King George all those years ago. He is, ladies and gentlemen, Kenny McPeak. This is going to be some staycation, we hope, for you and Daddy's little darling, who we saw finish second in the Kentucky Oaks behind Abel Tasman a couple of weeks ago. It's a big ask, but Dr. Devious went Kentucky Derby to winning the Derby in '92, so rarely tried and can be done.
Well, she's a really strong galloping filly. We've kind of had a mindset that she could handle this distance really well. I'm fortunate I've got my own gallops on my farm, and so we've spent a lot of time early in her career. She spent a lot of time on grass gallops. She handles it really well. She actually relaxes a lot better, and I think she'll handle the 1.5 miles. Timing-wise, you know, we really emphasize that we want to win a Grade 1 with her, and the woman that owns her is a breeder, and as we know, as a breeder, you want these Grade 1 markings on a filly. There really isn't any opportunity for her until the Alabama. So I told her, I said, let's do the nomination. If the timing's right and the filly's well, let's go.
There was a time when it was almost inconceivable that top-class American racehorses would come to race in Europe. You know, the lure wasn't enough, the prize money wasn't enough. I hope you've told these Johnny-come-latelys like Wesley Ward, Mark Cassey, Graham Motion, listen, I've been doing this for 20 years, and Hardbuck when was it, in the middle of the 2005-06, finishing second in the King George.
Well, Wesley originally came to me and said, you know, should I go, shouldn't I go? And I said, Wesley, go. If you've got a fast horse and you feel like you can be competitive at a high level, go. There's nothing to be fearful of. And the truth is that more Americans come. You know, you all come over and take our money all the time. But we really should travel this direction more, and I just love the sport of it. I mean, the history of this place is really what attracts me, and all of this, none of this would be possible. Nick Chain, back in 2003, and Stephen Wallace, we actually walked this course together. I ruined a perfectly good pair of shoes that day because it had been raining. Then we went over and we walked Ascot right-handed, and that was over a 6-hour layover at Heathrow, and so I've always dreamt to come back, and the better horses I get, the more you'll see me.
And this year, you really do seem to have a viable contender. I was just looking through her form. One thing she is very, very tough. She hardly knows how to run a bad race, and she runs through the line as well.
Well, but she's been very unlucky in draw. You know, she drew the 14 in the Breeders' Cup, and she gets annihilated in the turn, and she keeps coming. You know, she doesn't quit. And then, you know, she's been an extremely sound filly, knockwood, and everything else has been good. And today I had my first serving of Bubbles and Squeak.
Most of us just get Bubble, but you got Bubbles. It's what we like to be generous to our American visitors, Kenny. How was the Bubble and Squeak?
Kind of like hash browns, actually.
We'll take that. Tell us a bit about the filly when she's coming over, where she's going to be stabled, who'll ride her, and all the preparation leading up to the big race.
Well, she got delayed on her flight. She was supposed to leave yesterday and be here this morning, and we were going to kind of match flights. So she's scheduled to leave tomorrow or today, and from Alabama, of all things. We had to van her there, and she's got a direct flight into Stansted, but she'll handle that well. And then she's going into Jim Boyle's yard here, which we're excited and appreciate him hosting us. And I really wanted to keep her on grounds because she's a filly that needs schooled a little bit in the paddock, and she needs to see the scenery. I didn't feel like training her at Newmarket on Warren Hill or something like that was going to be conducive to coming here. So she'll get a chance to settle in and do her thing, and hopefully she shows well.
And who will ride her here?
Olivier Pellier is going to ride her. Julian Leperoux rode her in the last start, and was kind of conflicted on who to use over here. Did not want to bring an American rider because of the difference of the course, and so I really felt like the jockey needed to know the course more than the horse. And Olivier is going to come get on her. It looks like Friday, and I encourage anybody that would like to see her Friday, that's fine, and Saturday we'll be out here. And we
That's great. So out right on the course here, Friday and Saturday. What sort of time?
Well, it's gonna be up to Andrew, but we're working on those details and trying to figure out. We're gonna give her a little gallop over it, and timing-wise, with the plane being delayed, I've got to kind of contemplate how she handles the trip and make sure she's strong to do everything we need her to do.
And just finally, I was looking at her pedigree, and she's by Scat Daddy, this brilliant speed sire who we sadly lost a couple of years ago. Also the sire of Caravaggio, who was so brilliant the other day. It almost doesn't bear thinking about, the one could be this amazingly fast horse and the other a real stayer, but she's got the pliability and the temperament to get home here.
Well, she's a half-sister to Mongolian Saturday, who won the Breeders' Cup Sprint Turf, but she's no sprinter. If you see her, when you see her, she's kind of a longer, lankier type filly, but Caravaggio's obviously, sprinter type too. But you get Johannesburg on the sire line as well, and he was a good horse on all surfaces.
Well, we are so excited to see her. Daddy's little darling. Please give a warm round of applause to Kenny McPeak. Great to have you here, Kenny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. You look
Where are
lost.
you?
I'm here, sorry.
Sorry, I
I've
lost
moved
you.
from there to there. I am actually roving. So let's find out what Kenny and all of us can enjoy during Investec Derby week here in Epsom. I'm joined by Paul Taylor, who runs What's On in Epsom, and actually, rather unfairly, I asked Jen Whiteford from Investec what we can expect in Epsom during the week, but I should have asked you, Paul, because you are the man who's born and bred in Epsom, and this week as we lead up, or next week as we lead up to the Investec Derby Festival, there'll be lots in this town to see and do.
Yes, it's a very special week for Epsom, and I'm born and bred in Epsom. It's a big day out. So what we've decided, working with the Jockey Club at Epsom Downs here, local shopping centre, the Ashley Centre and the Epsom Ewell Borough Council, we're having a whole week of events starting this Friday. We have fashion shows. We're showing the 1952 film Derby Day in the local theatre. Again, this is all free of charge. We've got bunting going up. There's special signs from the station leading up to the racecourse on the lamppost, so look out for them. And you're all invited on the 1st of June for the Epsom Derby Festival Week party, which is in the marketplace. We've got local bands, face painting, and again, it's all raising funds for local mayor's charities.
Everyone in this room invited?
Everyone.
You sure about that?
Yes, bring your money.
And is this what you guys are doing from Friday onwards? Is that to make Epsom and the Investec Derby a sort of community race once again with this town?
It's bringing back the link from this lovely palace up on the hill back down to the town. It's, as I say, I'm born and bred. My granddad used to cut the grass in the grandstand that's now long gone next door. And it's just bringing that link, getting people involved with the town and making people of Epsom and Ewell proud to hold such a wonderful race.
Excellent. Paul, many thanks. We'll see you at the party. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful work Paul and his team are doing. Let's have a word now with Ed Nicholson from Unibet, who begin their 3-year support of the Derby Festival as the official betting partners. Round of applause for Ed. Ed, I would imagine all of your team at Unibet are massively excited to be part of this event, and has today buoyed you up yet further?
It has indeed, Nick. Yeah, we're really excited at Unibet. Obviously, this is our first year as the official betting partner to the Investec Derby. Unibet's been around for some time, since 1997 in fact, but it's a global company. We've got over 16 million customers. In fact, 64 million emails went out in the first quarter of 2017. But in the UK, we're not that well known. As I say, 5 years ago we launched, or 4 years ago we launched, and this really is going to help us promote Unibet to the UK market. Such an iconic traditional race with the world looking at it, especially in the UK. It's definitely going to help things at Unibet. And people at Unibet, a lot of them didn't even know what horse racing was when we opened up the UK office 3 or 4 years ago. Now they're loving it. They got totally involved in Cheltenham, and we're bringing lots and lots of people from our Wimbledon office, which is our head office, down to Epsom on the Investec Festival 2 days.
That's fantastic news. Now, needless to say, you will be wanting to grab the headlines, grab the punters' attention. I'm sure you are dangling lots of juicy carrots, for want of a better phrase.
We are indeed. There's plenty of odds on offer. In fact, we've already got 10 special Investec Derby festival offers up, which include, and we've been talking to Aidan O'Brien, we've been looking at all his runners. He's got 26 of the 123 runners left in the Derby, over 20%. You can bet 2 to 1 that he wins the Investec Derby with Unibet. You can bet 12 to 1 that he repeats 2002 when he got the first two, High Chaparral and Hawkwind, and 33 to 1 that he trains the first three. We've got an Aidan O'Brien special, not just on the Derby, but obviously we're sponsoring all the races at the Derby Festival, the Investec Derby Festival. We've already priced up the Coronation Cup. Incidentally, Seventh Heaven has just been announced as being injured for the whole season, out until the autumn actually. So the third favourite there's out. He's 6-4 favourite with Highland Rill to win that. He's 6-4 favourite with Rhododendron to win the Oaks. He hasn't got a runner in the dash with 10 to 1 the field last year's first and second, Kimbrella and Duca Ferenzi holding that position. And then obviously we've got plenty of other races we're going to price up. In fact, the horses that ran today, if any of the horses took your fancy to win an Epsom Classic, we'll give you 7-4. Any horse today wins either the Oaks or the Derby this year. So we've got plenty of offers on, and we've got plenty of kind of acquisition promotions and CRM promotions for the whole of the two-day festival.
Most importantly, Ed, enjoy it. Great to have you as part of the Investec Derby Festival. Ed Nicholson, ladies and gentlemen, from Unibet. Ollie, you have one last mission.
Yes.
And it is?
To speak to Mark Johnston, the trainer of Permian. And I believe he's on the line now. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Phew. The last one has gone A-OK. So, Mark, thank you very much for your time, for joining us here at Breakfast with the Stars. We've heard from John Ferguson, and he reports positive news from your yard regarding Permian. How is he today?
He's absolutely great. It's really been the story of his year so far, that he's taken all these races in his stride. He lost 9 kilos for the run in the Dante, which we would consider to be just normal, or even fraction less than what you'd expect. And he's put 7 of it back on. He's back cantering. He hasn't turned a hair, hasn't missed a day. Everything's been perfect.
How do you assess the strength of his form going into the Derby to that of some of your rivals?
It's obviously feet on the ground. We started him in a handicap this year. There's not many Derby winners start the 3-year-old year in a handicap. But one, it was a very good handicap, and two, his form since is obviously at a different level, and we can see that he's progressing with each run. I think our principal line to the Derby market is through Cracksman. I freely admit that we got the run of the race a bit at Epsom. We actually held him in when Permian made his run, and Cracksman did well to get out from that and rally again, and just got up and got us. He's a lighter race, less exposed horse, and you'd expect him to come on for that. But I think everybody can see clearly that Permian has come on from Epsom. We thought that the Newmarket run was a step up on that, and the Dante run another step up. So I don't think everybody should assume that in the next meeting that Cracksman will beat Permian. So on that basis, we deserve to be there, and we deserve to feel we have a live chance.
John said when I spoke to him that a 2-week break at Mark Johnston's like a holiday. Does the quick backup concern you?
Sorry, does what not concern me?
Does the quick backup in terms of duration from Dante to Derby, just over 2 weeks, does that worry you at all?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're a huge believer in doing our galloping on the race course. This horse, I'd have to look back at my records, but he certainly hasn't galloped since he ran, other than on the race, since his first run this year, other than on the race course. He won't be galloping again before the Derby. That's our normal policy. I remember way back when Bandari ran in the Derby, and he changed hands to Sheikh Hamdan just before the race, and Angus Gold, it was the first horse we'd ever had for Sheikh Hamdan, and Angus said to me, I'll pop up and see him doing his last piece of work. And I said, well, he isn't going to do the last piece of work, he's done it. And the same applies to Permian. He's done his fast work, he doesn't need any more between now and the Derby, and 2.5 weeks is just perfect.
I know that well, when I spoke to John, Mark, the jockey arrangements were up in the air, and I'm aware that it's unlikely you can commit to anything at the moment. But just as a general point, as a trainer with a live chance in the Derby, Franny Norton rode this horse in the Dante. Franny may not ride him in the Derby. Does that worry you? Is he a fairly straightforward horse in terms of if a jockey who hasn't ridden him before was to ride him?
Well, I think he's a very straightforward horse. There's no issues about that. He's had 4 runs this year already, and he's had 3 different jockeys. The only one who hasn't won on him is Richard Kingscote, who rode him in the first race, and he got off and he'd been hampered by our other horse, and he said to me, I should have won that race. I think we all can see in hindsight that he's probably right. But it shows, this horse has had several different jockeys, and I think he's a very straightforward horse, and that's going to be one of the big advantages for him in the Derby. He's already been to Epsom, and as we saw in the Dante, which you could make some excuses, I think, for some of the other horses that the Godolphin trio ran a bit free up front, and you could make some excuses for them, but it showed Permian's versatility and his ability to sit and settle anywhere at any pace, and so I think he is a very straightforward horse.
And just finally, Mark, your best finish in the Derby to date was 4th with Mr. Bailey's a few years ago. How are you feeling this time round with regards to Permian's chances?
I think as we get nearer and nearer, just as I've said to you, I freely admit at the beginning of the year we were not thinking Derby with this horse, and that's an unusual route to take a horse who starts off in a handicap and then be talking about the Derby 4 weeks later, or 6 weeks later. But I look at the Bear form and I say, the horse has answered every question, and he deserves to be there. So I'm very excited about the idea. I think that I've had, surprisingly, considering everybody sees me as a trainer of middle distance horses and stayers, I've had very few runners in the Derby and very, very few live chances. And so I think I'm going there. We're not going there just for the sake of going. We went to the Dante to decide between Ascot and Epsom, and he made the decision for us and did exactly what we hoped and won the Dante. So the Derby field would be the worse for missing Permian. The Dante winner should be there, and the Dante winner usually has a serious chance in the Derby, and it's a wonderful position to be in, to have the Dante winner going into the Derby.
Mark, many thanks. Mark Johnson there joining us live here at Breakfast with the Stars. Mark, we'll let you crack on. All the best with Permian in the Investec Derby. Thank you to Mark. He, along with the Ballydoyle team, Nick, the Godolphin team, runners perhaps from France, and of course the American Raider will be a host of a number of great horses that we'll see that weekend.
Do you know, Ollie, I don't think we've ever covered so many bases at Breakfast with the Stars as regards how many horses have been represented. I think as many as 16 or 17 we've got through in the Investec Derby, and great to hear from so many connections as well. Now, just give us you better have this in your head. Just give us the ITV schedule.
If it's to do with Darwinian genetics, then I won't answer that.
Well, you are the perfect specimen as regards Darwinian genetics.
Thank you.
Just give us the ITV schedule over the weekend.
Thank you, Nick.
I said you better have it in there.
We will be live on ITV main channel on Oaks Day from, I believe, 1:30, maybe 2, but I think it's 1:30. I'll be here at 1:30 anyway if we are on at 1:30.
Just tune in from 1:30.
And then I'm delighted to say, actually, that the opening show will be on the main channel on Derby Day. So like it was on Guineas Day, another big race that will have the opening show on the main channel on Derby Day, and then we'll be live. And Mick Cannan will be our special guest. So we've got a Derby legend joining us. So looking forward to that, as well as a whole host of celebs, Matt Chapman, Luke Harvey, the whole gang.
Excellent. Look forward to that. Don't forget to tune in to Frankie Dettori on Loose Women this afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. And we will leave you with, I hope, on cue,
a song.
Much better than a song. ITV's promo for this year's Investec Derby. Go.
This is one of our special promos that doesn't have sound.
However, it does look lovely. Thank you all for coming. We will see you again on Derby Day.